Hey, Husker fans, Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra. This is the three keys to Nebraska's game at Indiana. Well, we're off a bye week, and the Huskers have a unexpected and interesting challenge. They're going to undefeated Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, Memorial Stadium out there as well. Sold-out crowd. It will be an interesting atmosphere. The Huskers have not played much at Indiana, so this isn't a facility that any of the current players are accustomed to. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Indiana has one of the nation's best offenses, averaging 47 points and 515 yards per game. Wow, Indiana? Yeah, they're doing it with all transfers. A lot of transfers on the offense, quarterback, receivers, running backs, some transfers on the defense. The defense isn't quite as good. And let's be clear, Indiana has not faced a team as good as Nebraska on its schedule yet. How do we know that? Well, they played Florida International. They played Western Illinois. They played Charlotte, right? They played Northwestern, UCLA, and Maryland. None of those teams are as good as Nebraska this season. Nebraska will be the best defense that Indiana's played. I don't know if it's the best offense that Indiana's played, but I think Nebraska's a pretty good offense. And if the Huskers can deliver on special teams, this should be a really close game. Let's get right to the keys because we know that you want to know what's up. First key, country breakfast. What do I mean by that? You know what a country breakfast is, don't you? Right? Stick to your ribs. Kind of a nice skillet with potatoes and onions and peppers and meat and cheese and all the things that makes you slow you down. Well, Nebraska needs to have a country breakfast kind of attitude when they go to Indiana. It's going to be a noon game, but they're going to be preparing for it in the morning, and the body clock's going to say it's 11 a.m. Nebraska has to have a muscle to it. They've got to get into Indiana's ribs a little bit. IU has been able to move fast. They've gotten leads all season long. They're kind of a smaller, quick-moving team, a little bit of spread, a little bit of aggression on defense, but Nebraska is a old-school, two tight end, maybe a fullback, physical football team, and Nebraska has to assert its physicality in this game. Indiana's going to want to serve a fast casual breakfast. Nebraska's got to go country breakfast. They got to slow the tempo a little bit in the game. They've got to get into the Indiana, and they have to expect to win the fourth quarter. Indiana's been great in fourth quarters. Nebraska has to win this fourth quarter by wearing Indiana down. That may take a little bit of time, and it's going to take a little bit of physicality, but I think Nebraska feels like they can do that. Remember, Indiana's not practicing against the kind of offense that Nebraska is capable of running with its jumbo formations and its power sets and some of the things Nebraska likes to do. Nebraska has a guy like Janiron Bonner, who's a 225-pound flying fullback, so to speak. Indiana will have to experience some different things in this game, and I think Nebraska wants to make Indiana uncomfortable with its muscle and physicality, so country breakfast is our very first key. Second key, control room. What do I mean by that? Well, hey, look, Nebraska's got to control the environment there. If they get down early and they're down 10-0, that crowd could be on top of the Huskers, and it could get tough, right? And Nebraska has not been great on the road again in the Matt Rule era. They've won a couple of games at Illinois and Purdue. They didn't play that great in those games, and the crowds at those games weren't really difficult. At the games where the crowds were pretty tough, Nebraska struggled a little bit. They've got to find a way to get on top in this game and then control the game from there. The start they had at Wisconsin last year wouldn't be a bad idea. They led 14-0 out there before they sort of faltered down the stretch. But Indiana's a different kind of team than Wisconsin was last year, and I think Indiana will have a hard time coming back from a 14-0 lead. If I'm Nebraska, I win the coin toss. I don't mind getting the football. I want to try to take an early lead and put some pressure on Indiana to respond. They haven't had to do a lot of that this season. They've very rarely been tied after the first quarter, and so there's challenges that Nebraska's got to put on Indiana by controlling the environment. Run the football. Run some clock. Bring the crowd noise down a little bit. Lull that crowd to sleep and then come back and make some plays and put Indiana at a deficit. Control room. You've got to find a way to push the buttons and pull the levers that get you ahead in that game. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very challenging because I think Indiana's got a very nice offense, but Nebraska's got to find a way to control the game with its offense and then let the defense attack and do its thing. Third key, speed bump. Here's what I mean by that. Indiana is going to try to manipulate Nebraska's defense, which is an aggressive, pursuing defense. They're going to try to get Nebraska's eyes in the wrong place, the safeties and the linebackers both. Illinois did a really good job of that, and that's one of the reasons why Illinois beat Nebraska 31-24. Indiana's offense is going to try to do the exact same thing. They're going to try to fake hard run, and they're going to pull up, and they're going to throw it over the top. They're probably going to have some misdirection stuff where they get guys going in different directions. They want to get John Bullock and Javen Wright and Stephon Thompson and Mekhi Bayer and some of those safeties, Deshaun Singleton and Isaac Gifford. They want them flowing hard, and then they want to come back with other things. Watch the tight end for Indiana, number 44. Watch some of those receivers. IU does want to get the ball out on the edges, and they will get that done, and that neutralizes to some degree Nebraska's excellent front line, but they're also going to try to do it with some misdirection stuff. Now, Nebraska counters with its own stunts. They try to figure out ways to blow up plays before they even happen, but that's going to be part of the chess match. Nebraska's linebackers have to have a lot of discipline in this game. It is not going to be easy. They have to try to find a way to play smart, but play fast. And sometimes that means slow to go and you run over the speed bump a little bit. Sometimes that means you trigger right away, as John Bullock was saying on Tuesday. This is not an easy game. I do think Nebraska can win it, though. I think Nebraska's defense matches up fairly well with Indiana's offense. I don't know that they match up well with Ohio State's offense, but I think they match up well with Indiana's offense. I think they can slow Indiana down. The key's going to come down to Dylan Raiola and that offense. Nebraska's offense has got to find a way to, A, run the football. B, they've got to find a way to have a controlled, smart passing game. And when they go over the top, they got to complete those passes. Enough of the 15-yard DPIs because the pass was underthrown. When you go over the top, you got to go over the top for 57. That's the way it's going to have to be in this game. They've got to find a way to get explosive plays over the top in the pass game. They've got to find a way to consistently run the ball underneath and then maybe get a few perimeter plays. Do I think Nebraska can win? I do. I think the Huskers can win this 27-24, 24-20, but the risk also is that Nebraska could get behind early and really struggle to come back, because if that crowd gets on top of the Huskers and a freshman quarterback, it will not be an easy environment. Okay, that is the three keys for Nebraska, Indiana. I'm Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra.